Siemanko, siemanko, witam serdecznie na moim kanale.
Hello, and welcome to QuakeCon 2021.
You might notice we're not in Texas this year, but we are
Dzień dobry,
deep
dzień
in the
dobry.
heart of Bethesda HQ in our QuakeCon-themed cafeteria.
Deep in the heart, I see what you did
Thank
there.
you.
Siemaneczko,
Obviously,
siemaneczko.
this year is going to be a little different, so we decided to change up the formula a little bit.
Rather than our usual keynote address, we're just jumping right into it. We'll be bringing you all-star panels you love.
And some of the games you can't wait to play.
That includes conversations and updates on Doom Eternal, Fallout 76, The Elder Scrolls Online, and Deathloop.
And we'll also take a ride on a very familiar cart as we play Skyrim with some of the original developers of the game.
We have 3 days of programming from our global team,
Dźwięk się chyba trochę im
including some
rozjeżdża,
very
co?
exciting live streams, musical performances, tournaments, and a few special guests. You can find the full schedule on Bethesda.net and QuakeCon.org.
As always, we have a massive sale going on. Save as much as 70% on our games. Check out Bethesda.net for more details. Plus, we know how much the QuakeCon community loves to pick up the latest show swag. So check out everything new we've got for you this year.
We're also supporting the charities that are near and dear to the hearts of the QuakeCon community, including the Trevor Project, NAACP Legal
Zaraz będę mieć
Defense and
otworzone wszystko,
Educational
także zaraz
Fund,
będę
Asian
widział.
Americans Advancing Justice, and UNICEF.
Along with 2 of my personal favorites, Dallas Pets Alive and Four Paws. Be sure to get at least one of these amazing new t-shirts or sweatshirts that are part of Custom Inc.'s fundraising campaign. I love dogs.
Siema Trollman, siema Chudaryba, siema Atomis, siema Aradiel. Alduin, siemanko, Pokido. To Bethesda, no.
Streams to find out how you can contribute. We'd like to thank everyone who's participating in this year's show, especially you, and of course all our partners and sponsors. They're providing some awesome giveaways all weekend.
Też dźwiękiem strasznie się baguje.
Most of all, we'd like to thank the QuakeCon volunteers for continuing to play such a pivotal role in shaping this show, even remotely. If you'd like to give them a shout out yourself, you can find many of them in our QuakeCon Discord channel. Hang out with one of the most welcoming communities in gaming, chat with old friends and new, and maybe even grab some more cool giveaways.
All right, Pete, should we get started?
I think we should. Now let's begin by celebrating a game that's brought us together for 26 years and the amazing community that's grown alongside it.
Have fun.
No to zobaczymy, co ciekawego powiedzą. Jak myślicie, co to będzie?
I think it's important for us as players, as people love the gaming industry, what our art form is about, to recognize those franchises that really changed so much that came after them, just from the sheer innovation and differentiation and kind of risk-taking the team took.
Kind of dynamically changed his own style as the tried and true defensive base has come out many times in stage 3, but also a unique kind of I wouldn't say aggressive, but maybe more like the clay version of base, where it's like I can be what I need to be depending on the matchup.
Głodny jestem. To i szkolenie się po Quake na pewno, to na pewno, nie?
Here in stage 3.
I think we kind of just look at the results of these kind of players and it's kind of base all over. There is an element of consistency where he's able to take maps off pretty much anyone, no matter who they are. But with base, it rarely is just maps, and it does tend to be series overall. I think a lot of people out there consider him, one of the best Quake champion players in the community right now. And even against the likes of Cypher, Kilson, Avec, and Wenger, he's able to get a map there 2-1, a lot of those maps are close and could definitely go the other way, right? I think, there was a 3-0 that he conceded to Razy, but across the board, when there's a big finals coming up, although not everyone has all eyes on base, you kind of know and or expect him to get pretty damn far.
Okej, czekamy na ciebie.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And it obviously wasn't his best stage in terms of placement, in terms of being 6, when we've seen him higher than that. But again, as Ketchup alluded to, you see the consistency
fajnie, że ktoś z Polski jest, nie?
Close in context. A lot of these games were, it means it's not a fair reflection. And to your point,
A zobaczcie, że ile ruskich jest, co? Słychać mnie, jak tam dźwięk?
Proactive he could be now. It's not just more of the methodical play. He has more edge
Raz,
to
dwa,
that
trzy.
sword, which makes him even scarier. And speaking to the pros, he's pretty much one of the few players that no one wants to play against. He's frustrating, he's very skilled, and I'm sure he can cause a lot of upstairs.
Yeah, and he's
za
produced
dobrze.
some
No dobra.
fantastic games over the course of stage 3. And the question now is going to be, are we going to see another one of those? Let's talk first about his opponent, though, Chain from the NA region. And Chain is
Mój słynny akcent?
very
Jaki
unique
akcent?
story
Śmietnikowy
in
chyba, co?
that, coming off of one of the more previous stage finals, we were like, wow, Chain is like stepping up his game. You know, look at the opponents he's knocking down. But then the stage performance didn't really mirror what we saw in the finals. And I would say the exception is
widziałem, że
these
takie
last
testy się
few weeks
odbywają.
for Chain actually saw him really kind of picking his game up quite a bit and playing, I think, a little bit more like we expected him to, right, at the time. So as he goes up against Base, Ketchup, will start with you. What are your thoughts here on Chain?
Chain's in a interesting position where he's definitely the stage being overshadowed by Zeniku and Maxter, because Chain, the reality was, he was the talk of the town of the Americas a couple of stages ago, and there was a time where we talked about him as undisputed top 2. You know, there was a point where he'd surpassed Dehang in terms of the results, and that was for good reason. He was grinding incredibly hard. It was absolute focus. I don't know whether that focus has had a bit of a shift. You know, real life affects us all in different ways, and maybe he hasn't had the same kind of commitments, whether or not it's in his, you know, he has something to say about it, I don't know. But my point is, recently, it has not been the Chain that once was out there making the absolute name for himself as top 2 in Americas, and then couple that with the fact that Dramis is really impressing, Zeniku is impressive as hell, Maxter is impressive as hell.
I think it's important for us as players, as people love the gaming industry, what our art form is about, to recognize those franchises that really changed so much that came after them, just from the sheer innovation and differentiation and kind of risk. Quake was clearly one of those franchises. You can remember before Quake and after Quake. I think everything that came after Quake both had a bar.
No rozjeżdża im się trochę dźwięk, zauważyłem. A na zeszłym QuakeConie to samo było.
On multiplayer that we feel in the games that we're still playing today. So awesome franchise to recognize and give it its due for what it meant to our industry.
Be right back, czyli za chwilę wrócę. Na razie nic ciekawego nie powiedzieli, popowiadali troszeczkę o swoim turnieju, także jak sami widzicie, dźwięk troszeczkę mi się rozjeżdża, pewno dlatego zaraz wracam jest. Czego oczekujecie po tym QuakeConie? Nie wiem. Jakieś nowe części czy coś? Jak myślicie? Może nowego Quake'a 5? Może Skyrima 6, co? Elder Scrollsy 6? Jak myślicie? Co to będzie? Starych, jak wolałbyś Resima? Remastera. Ja też bym wolał starych remastera, tak prawdę powiedziawszy, ale chyba każdy czeka na Tesla 6. No ja też powiem ci, nie pogardziłbym Tesla 6, z chęcią bym sobie pograł. Ale zobaczmy co na to. O, no to super. I które mapy walczysz teraz? Hello there, poszukiwaczu pustkowi. Siemaneczko, siemaneczko. Chyba usnęli. Ciekawe, co ciekawego wymyślą. Przerwa techniczna chyba, co? Jak sądzicie? A może pokażę coś więcej na temat naszej 76, co? A widziałeś takiego kampa, Draco? Ja powiem ci szczerze, nie spotkałem się, a już troszeczkę tych godzin mam już spędzonych. Jak to się zabili w takim? Be right back. Ciekawe, co oni tam kombinują. Musisz uważać. PRB. ZW, spoko. Napisy KC Fallout 76. Przepraszamy za problemy techniczne. Zaraz zobaczę, co na czatach piszą. Windows XP shutdown. A to nie Fallout, a teraz Quake jest. Hello Kacper, siemanko, siemanko. Gram Apexa. Bev to Bev. No way, Quake Remaster is there. A więc ja troszeczkę opowiem, jak to będzie wyglądało u mnie. Teraz ja na chwilę będę się musiał zmyć, w sensie, że 20:43 na chwilę zniknąć i o 21:00 startujemy. Myślę, że zamiast pokazywać to, co na PTS-ie jest, to co oni chcą pokazać twórcy, to zrobimy naszą polską wydanie tego PTS-a. Ja wezmę, odpalę sobie tutaj to wszystko na PTS-ie, pokażę wam te światy, jak się zmieniły, co się zmieniło i tak dalej. Pobawimy się troszeczkę, może pobudujemy. To będzie potrwało do 22:00, a o 22:00 wyruszymy ponownie do Skyrima. Podobnie jak ma to miejsce teraz na QuakeConie, który jest w tym roku. Zrobimy to w ten sposób, że my się wybierzemy w polskiej edycji Skyrima. Pogramy sobie razem, także ja to Bloodsin. A co to jest Bloodsin? Dawaj na cheatach w Skyrimie. Co ty? Ja cheatów nie używam. Także już widzę, że tutaj wrze na QuakeConie. Zobaczymy, co tutaj ciekawego. Siema Kamilos. Siemanko, siemanko Kamilos. Jak tam zdróweczko? Kurczę, ja tutaj czekam na jakieś show, jakieś fajerwerki, a na razie to fajerwerki to oni chyba z serwera mają, co? Jak sądzicie? Z serwera czy z kompa mają? Rocket Arena. Coś tam paruski, ile rusków tam jest. Ogólnie tego Twitcha ogląda 15 000 osób, tego streama. 16 osób u nas. Dobry wieczór, witam wszystkich serdecznie. Zróbcie falę, poczekamy, może pogramy sobie w Q&A jakieś. Może coś chcecie zapytać. Mnie. To ja wam odpowiem jeszcze, póki jest Be Right Back. Remaster trailer, remaster trailer. Pinwheel of Death. I nie zapomnijcie kliknąć serducha i suba. Grałem w Quake'a Champions troszeczkę, ale powiem ci, jeszcze laptopa miałem słabego i strasznie mi mulił, ale ogólnie kiedyś za dzieciaka, o, coś się chyba zacznie dziać. Muzyczkę puścili. Za dzieciaka grałem w Quake'a 2 dużo, potem do 1, trójeczka arena już mniej, ale najwięcej to 2. O, ruszyło.
I think it's important for us what our art form is about, to recognize those franchises that really changed so much that came after them, just from the sheer innovation and differentiation.
Latman
and
29.
taking the team took, and Quake was
Co, nie
one of
wyglądam?
those franchises. You can remember before Quake and after Quake. I think everything that came after Quake both had a bar that franchise
Aktualizacja z
set,
76.
and also
To ile
just
cię
an
nie było?
impact on design, on multiplayer that we feel in the games that we're still playing today.
Ja tak samo w Quake'a 2 jeszcze na
awesome
kawiarenkach.
franchise to recognize
I w CS:a
and
1.6.
give it its due for what it meant to our industry.
Hey everyone, it's hard to believe we're here celebrating 25 years of Quake. I'm Andre Carlos, community manager, and I'm honored to be hosting the Quake panel here at QuakeCon 21.
I'm honored to be here with you, buddy. My name is Joshua
10 dni.
Boyle.
O,
I'm
to
senior
była
community manager
aktualizacja,
at
to
Bethesda
fakt.
Softworks.
And now we're
Community
going to
managerowie z
kick it to
Bethesdy.
3 industry legends and Quake fans in their own right.
Hey everyone, I'm Marty Stratton, the studio director here at
Dyrektor
id
studia
Software.
ID Software.
Here for my 22nd, I think, QuakeCon. Wish we could be in person, but happy to
Dokładnie,
be
nieprzespane
joining
nocki
you
przy Quake'u
virtually.
były.
Yep, this is Kevin Cloud. I'm senior producer at
Starszy
id.
producent ID.
Equally excited to be here. I wish we could be there in person as well, but I appreciate everyone getting.
I znowu jeśli dźwięk ściął.
Erik Gustafsson, executive producer at Machine Games, a big Quake fan, but also a very big id fan. So it's a great honor for me to be here.
Awesome. We're so stoked to have you guys here. But
A co,
I
chcesz
know
napisy
that
łączyć?
before we jump in and talk about
Czekaj, ty
Quake
nie ma
and
napisów chyba, nie?
QuakeCon, Marty, I know you had a quick message for the QuakeCon audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nie ma.
You know, the pandemic has been tough for so many people out there. You know, we've talked a little bit in some letters and
Ja
different things, different
rozumiem.
streams about what it's meant to us from a development perspective.
Stara się chłonąć co
But,
ten support
you know,
Bethesdy.
coming together at QuakeCon really means a lot to us. We've missed each other being in person. We're all excited to get back to work, back to the office, seeing each other in person. And honestly, I really have to hand it to ZeniMax for keeping QuakeCon alive over these last couple of years. I think all of us last year thought that we'd be back this year celebrating together and getting together and that really that this
rock,
event
and
to
the
us
Rockets.
at id is really that it is about kind of that
Mówię, że bardzo się
community,
cieszę z tego,
and
że
not even us
ten
connecting
event
with
jest
the
agres...
community, because I think we're always connected to our community of players pretty well. It's
Nie
just
grałem
getting
Diablo, tylko
together
Quake Live.
and sitting together in the BYOC, you know, sitting together in the audience of, you know, whatever crazy
O.
activities we have going on, you know,
Todd
getting together in
Howard.
panels. It's
2019 ostatni QuakeCon, który się był
that perspective
face to
where,
face.
you know, everybody from id gets to literally just sit down, talk, have meals, drink together, and have this. Missed it the last 2 years, but we really appreciate the fans keeping it alive with us, watching the streams, participating in the fundraisers we're doing, buying the games. We always put on
Jakiego
great
Leda
sales
tu zrobili,
around
co?
QuakeCon. That's a QuakeCon tradition. And you know, I say it all the time, but really that, you know, that interaction with our community, with our players, that's what fuels us. And there's no better place that we get that fuel than QuakeCon every year. So we're already looking forward to next year. We were looking forward to this year, but I know we'll be back together next year. And just want to thank the fans and the community for,
Ja bym nie
for
mógł w takiej czapce
supporting us
siedzieć, a wy?
through the
Kako
launch of
demona.
Doom Eternal, all of these, you know, this last year and a half, showing up at QuakeCon last year and then showing up again this year really means a lot to us, and we'll have a great party next year together.
Kevin, how about you? What were your favorite experiences, favorite moments at QuakeCons?
Yeah, I think my first QuakeCon was in 1999, so that's it started in
Ale
96.
QuakeCon w 99,
and,
co?
A number of the id guys attended even that very first QuakeCon, but 1999 is when id really became involved.
99 miałem wtedy 8. Tak? Nie, 7 lat.
Favorite memories with QuakeCon are with my son.
8, 7. 7 lat
going
miałem.
out and experiencing the games
To jeszcze coś tam grało.
with him.
A wy jakie macie wspomnienia z Quake'iem?
What some of the early QuakeCon attendees do today. They come back with their families. And it's exciting to see sort of this next generation of gamers out there enjoying what we're making today. So yeah.
It's cool too, because we've actually, over the years we've grown up with some of the people who've either volunteered or have gone to early QuakeCons and now are actually employees of the studio. We've had many people here at id that were like 16, 17, 18, their first QuakeCons, and were volunteers for many years, and then we hire them on staff. John Hill, 04, was a longtime competitor, came to QuakeCon for the first time with his dad, talking about families. His dad was chaperoning him.
That's right.
At that very first QuakeCon. I can't remember how old he was. I think he was like 15, maybe 14. And now...
Oni teraz opowiadają o swoich wspomnieniach z QuakeConem, że wcześniej byli jako tacy gnojki grające. A teraz mogą być częścią zespołu i tego typu wspominki są tutaj teraz.
Favorite memories you have of QuakeCon's past?
Unfortunately, I haven't been to...
Jak przełączają kamery, ścina ich, nie?
With focus on promoting our Wolfenstein titles. I do enjoy it though, and it's a very good opportunity to meet up with fellow gamers and also our friends at id Software, of course. And LAN parties has always been something that is very popular here in Sweden as well. I mean, it's a big thing here from the very early days of DreamHack. So working or walking through the Bring Your Own Computer section is something that is really fun to do, and I really enjoy.
We're here celebrating QuakeCon. Obviously, QuakeCon wouldn't exist without Quake. It's sort of in the name, sort of how we got our start here. But if we haven't already, let's get nostalgic now to talk about 25 years later. So basically, quick question to all of you.
Camilo,
how did you first get
obserwowanko.
introduced to Quake and what impact did it have? I'm going to start at the beginning. So Kevin, this is almost a rhetorical question for you because it was your job.
Z balkonu od razu, Rokus. I live'a z tego zrobię, co?
What impact Quake had on you and how you got introduced to id, really?
Well, so while we were working on Doom 2, Carmack was working on the Quake tech. So I was introduced to it in bits and pieces as it evolved over time. For me personally, as a game developer, it had a big impact because it represented this huge technology
Siema
shift.
Klaudiś. Elo Decibelo. O, i to był Doom.
We were creating creatures with sprites, and even with Doom, which feels 3D, it was still kind of 2.5D. With Quake, we went to this fully realized 3D world. All the models were 3D, so I had to learn modeling and animation with these.
No, to był Quake 1. Kto grał?
Intimidating for me, but because we were
Remastera oczekujesz?
back then. But it was also, just really exciting to be what we all knew to sort of, to be the bleeding edge of gaming technology at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that when you get up to something that would be like health, it has a side and it isn't just two backs is incredible. And I know you're personally, I know you have a kind of an interesting introduction too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about
Ale młoda widownia, nie? Dopóki myślę grał w Quake'a, co?
you as a person and you.
I played Wolfenstein and Doom over at friends'
Znowu mi się
houses.
coś rozjeżdża.
We also had computers at my hometown school, so we played there for
W Lola nie gram, Kamilos.
many days and many weeks as
Na ogół gram w gry
Those
Bethesdy,
games,
wiesz?
also Duke Nukem, we played a lot back then. But I didn't get my first own
Jak
computer until the fall of 1996. And when I did, this offering they had at the store was a modem and also the game Quake. So I got the computer, I got the internet, and the game at the same time. And I didn't know much about the game back at the time, but obviously I instantly fell in love with it. And initially I just played single player.
Pamiętajcie też o łapkach w górę dla zasięgu.
But after a while, then I discovered fan-made maps, and Ben Morris released Worldcraft, and then it just went from there. So for me, Quake is the reason that I'm a game developer today, and of course also the reason that I started why I started as a level designer.
That's amazing.
That is so super important to me.
Right. Super awesome.
Those early years and the early release of the source code via OpenGL, the modability of the game, you know, it really. It was so everything, like all that stuff that I was talking about. Just
Dobra, pokażcie jakieś mięso.
OpenGL, the open source of the code, the modability. It was all so just not ahead of its time, but just on that. It was the front of the wave, you know. And I think I really, you know, as important as the actual game was and the gameplay and 3D. So much of that stuff was
Klapki z
just
mięsem, chuda ryba? Też dobrze.
a lot of what every and I think I know Id gets a lot of credit and Kevin's still still at Id, and it's such an awesome thing, but like those early years and that early team was really something special, and we still hold a lot of that respect for that team at the company today, even though most of them aren't with us, physically in the building anymore. It's just it really was a special time.
With both QuakeCon and Quake, now 25 years later, like neither would be anything of what they are without an amazing community. Like what makes Quake fans so passionate? And first I'm going to start with Yerk, because again, coming from the community, I feel like Yerk's like, Jesus, that's a lot of pressure to answer this question. But no, what do you think, like, from your perspective,
Pozdrawiam ludzi z Twitcha.
Getting your first PC in '96 with a modem and the internet, big ups, and Quake, like, what do you think, fueled your passion as a community member for Quake in particular at the time, and like, what's continued it going so long, you think?
I think for me, and I touched upon this, and you just mentioned the internet connection and the ability to access community-made maps opened up a completely new world for me. And a lot of things happened during that time as well, and a lot of things that guided me in the right direction. The Swedish PC Gamer came out that fall. Swedish site that came up called Fragzone, that was
$52.
sole focus on Quake at the time, which a site that still is ongoing today, but broader nowadays, but still one of the most popular gaming sites in Sweden.
That's awesome.
But that accessibility meant everything, and for a couple of years I was very active, but then when I joined Starbreeze and at the end of '98, it slowed down a bit. Even though I still did some mapping on the side, I wasn't really active in the community.
To wy na jutrzejszego giveawaya, a propos widzowie, tak sobie porozmawiamy jeszcze. Co chcecie wygrać, Blackwooda czy pakiet rekrutacyjny Bractwa?
That was built using Worldcraft 1.6, and it used the technical limitations of old WinQuake,
right?
Where I think for me the main struggle back then was to keep the drawn surfaces down below 799.
Yeah, you had the limitations.
Wszystko chcesz zgarnąć.
Oh yes, no, it's very different now. It has evolved.
Pozdrawiam też Vogel.
Yeah.
Pozdrowionka.
You having started off, making all these Worldcraft maps.
A ja tego po lewej, kurde, te mi coś kojarzę, bractwo, ale dodatek też może być. Dodatek. To ogólnie z tego co się orientuję, to jest kolekcjonerska edycja i to byś mieć wszystkie dodatki po kolei, czyli nawet jak podstawki nie masz, to masz wszystko. Wszystkie chaptery po kolei. Czyli Somerset, Ellsworth, Morrowind.
On a computer back home, and I
Greymore.
continued to do mapping,
Jest lepsze.
during the Starbase year and also over the Machine Games year. So that
A,
dimension
bo
of the
pakiet
past
bractwa
map
masz.
pack is just a mix of all the new maps put together.
Gdzie na playu Monterek
for
będziesz
the
z nami siąść?
so it was quite fun.
Live Fallout
But it was
1.
more recently when
Myślę, że
we
zrobimy
started,
jeszcze
we
w
have a
sierpniu
Machine Games
takiego.
Quake modding group. And when we started that a couple of years ago now,
To było z Quake'iem pokazane tak na szybko, opowiadają wspominki o tym, jak oni pracowali. Niektórzy, jak jeszcze grali w Quake'a za dzieciaka, byli wielkimi fanami, a teraz mogą pracować w tym studiu, także takie wspominki ogólnie, że bardzo dużo ludzi było, że radzili sobie bez internetu, tak po pindolenie. I przerwa techniczna, zaraz wracam. O, to tak na szybko.
And things like, Eric Weiss compiling tools and Christian Duskes, the Trench Broom editor.
O, to bardzo dobrze, nie mam niku. Teraz w Quake'ka dwójeczkę jak grasz, taki program zainstalujemy i ja w Quake'a dwójeczkę będziemy grać. To prawda lamię, ale będziemy z widzami rozgrywkę mieli, co? Jutro będzie to. Zaraz powiem wam o której.
The most important site for me, a great source of and I continued to follow that site throughout all of these years and downloaded maps, and the mods made today. I think Arcane Dimension is a great example. They are constantly just pushing and showing what's possible with the new mod tools.
Przepraszam, w sobotę o godzinie 18:30 gramy w Quake'ka.
Well, it is the 25th anniversary.
It's true.
No chciałbym, powiem ci, kurde, na takiej grafice jak tego.
But I don't think it would be
Stary.
virtually here at Quake.
Od razu bym grał,
In
nie?
spirit,
Od razu bym
here.
zamawiał.
I don't think it would be
ID Software bardzo dobrze optymalizuje gry.
QuakeCon if we didn't have an announcement.
You, my friend, are correct.
Quake 1. I ten odgłos. Myślę, że po prostu dostosowali to do nowego sprzętu, wiesz? Z crossplayem, o kurde. Ciekawe czy ray tracing będzie, co? Infrastrukturę sieciową na pewno. No ja na pewno zagram. Infrastrukturę sieciową na pewno nowoczesną, nowocześniejszą zrobili, bo tamto to przecież trzeba było jakieś hamachi i inne wynalazki wygrywać. Quake 1. Available now. Next gen upgrades coming soon. Next gen upgrade będzie do tej gry. Ja cię, dobry wieczór. Ciekawe co next gen upgrade zrobią.
Quake being on consoles, and we're talking like Saturn, Nintendo 64 days. So this is pretty wild.
Kto kupuje?
And Marty, do you want to walk us through just some of like the top line points of what this offers
Available now.
players that are maybe just coming in for the first time, or maybe they're familiar with Quake a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it for us it was important to be authentic and create a genuine Quake experience that is what people to players, what it's meant to the industry, to basically kind of bring it back at the 25th anniversary, bring it to a whole new audience of players, or to players who've been with us
Ominęło
for
cię
the last
Quake.
25 years.
Quake cię ominął. Quake 1 został odświeżony, bo remasterem tego nazwać nie można.
Is really what it was all about. And the team has done a great job with it. We have Xbox
Został
Series
odświeżony.
X and as well as PlayStation 5, where we'll have 4K support and 120 Hz support, which is awesome. From a multiplayer perspective, obviously, you know, we've touched on it, but multiplayer Quake was such a
Poczekajcie, muszę sobie
such a big deal.
akceptować konto.
And for this release, we have obviously full multiplayer support, both
też
local
prawda.
and internet. Local has 4-player split screen as well as 4-player co-op.
O, na split screenie będzie można.
On,
Poczekajcie.
when you're playing online multiplayer. So really a great version of Quake for, again, people who've been with us for a long time, or you know, if you've kind of gotten into the recent scene around this style of game. I love to see there's almost been a resurgence of this style of game within the indie scene.
Lovecrafty, no Lovecrafty dobre są.
You know, first-person shooters, and I think Doom's been part of that, but they all really go back to Quake.
Radku, witam, ale za chwilkę będę musiał chwilkową pauzę zrobić.
You know, you've never played a Quake game. You know, this is the original, and it's worth picking up.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, well said. And then Kevin, it's not just visual enhancements, right? We've got some pretty cool audio stuff going on as well in the enhanced version.
We do. I mean, I do want to give a shout out to Night Dive, and you know that's the
42 zł kosztuje w Polsce.
On the project back in I guess it was QuakeCon 2019. Some of their team members sat around a lunch table with me, and
kto kupuje?
And we discussed this idea.
To się odbywa online.
Huge fans of the game, and you know, if you've played Doom 64, you know you've played a Night Dive title with us.
Right.
These guys specialize in bringing back these classic games, and really making sort of an archival version of them that it plays like the game you remember, it looks like the game you remember, but it's better. And so, you know, I just want to give a shout out to those guys and the effort they put into it. So, you know, on the sound
87 nie ma. 87.
We included the original soundtrack.
To się odbywa online.
Back to
Właśnie.
our, you know, our archives of the source sounds, and released them, and we'll be releasing them now in 22 kilohertz rather than 11 kilohertz.
Quake 1.
So a lot of, you know, improvements to try to get the best quality version of Quake. So, you know, we're really excited about it.
To co, gramy w Quake'a 1? Kto gra?
And Yurk, I'm going to toss this one over to you. So you've been talking about, you know, having played Quake single player obsessively, and also about the modding scene. So what about mission?
No to warto zagrać. Moim zdaniem 42 zł, 79,
And
pomyłka.
also, what about the modding scene in general? Like, how are mods going to be supported?
The enhanced version comes with the 2 mission packs, Source of Armageddon, and also Dissolution of Eternity, which is really, really great. And in addition, I'm also very happy to say that we have a contribution from the Machine Games Quake modding group as well, both Dimension of the Past and an all new.
No już Quake'a 1 mam pobranego.
Will also be included in this version of Quake, which is super cool.
That's amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brand new mission.
Tora giga waży prawie, giga 38.
And the game will definitely support mods for PC already now.
Za jasno
Support
coś
for
jest mi
curated
tutaj.
mods for console will be added later.
That is so cool. Like, not only is it coming to new platforms where Quake has never been on,
right?
To an all, you know, an all new audience, really.
Yeah.
But they're going to check out some of these cool community creations, and you know, there's going to be post.
And just a spoiler,
Awesome to see.
I've played the new Machine Games Edition add-on, and it is rad. Like you said, I can tell that you guys are using new tools to make it, because I was like, what is this? Is this even Quake? This is incredible. Like, architecture, everything. You guys blew it out of the water, so that's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is fantastic how far things have come. And those guys
Dobra,
did,
moi
you know,
drodzy.
Machine Games did an
Ja na
incredible
chwilkę
job
będę
with
musiał.
it.
For sure.
So, very exciting to see.
And again, free content. Once you get the game, you can just download it. You can choose to download or delete any of these things. You can keep tidy your own build. It's all pretty sweet and self-contained.
That's wild.
It's pretty rad.
All right. We want to thank Marty.
Do zobaczenia po
Kevin,
przerwie,
and
moi
Yurk
drodzy.
one more time for joining us, guys. Thank you so much, and thank you for making
Ja wam
this
też
last
dziękuję.
25 years.
Do zobaczenia. Spotkamy się już za niedługo. Bo widzimy się o 21. Zapraszam serdecznie. Cześć.
Hello.